I live in New York City, and just the last couple of years, we got legal weed, and should have been decriminalized a long time ago. But that's neither here nor there. Um, Ever since I've heard complaints in the few remaining cigar lounges that we have here about how we cigar smokers have so few places to smoke, but you can light up a joint anywhere these days. And here's the thing: these are the ramblings of disgruntled fogies, and part of the reason why cigar smoking isn't cool. So let me explain. So the actual law is that marijuana consumption is legal everywhere it's legal to smoke tobacco. And in New York City, there's not very many places. Like, you can't smoke in the public park. You can't smoke in your home unless you own it. No renters. We're a city of renters. Uh, and there are only a few cigar lounges or bars that are open in the city, and some of those lounges are now charging this like exorbitant price for a day pass. So even the few that exist, uh, you might have to pay a price of admission, and who can afford to do that? But after slow and bumpy rollout, there are more cannabis shops opening up. We're probably a bit of a ways off from weed lounges. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of smoking weed on the streets. And but I also see some people smoking cigars on the streets. Not as many as weed smokers, but that's not because of like lack of social acceptance. There's just more weed smokers than cigar smokers. Um, so what are the cigar smokers really complaining about? They're mad that cigars aren't cool. And yes, yes, yes. What's cool and what isn't cool is largely personal and subjective. But when I use the term here, what I mean is something that is desired by those the vanguard of culture. Not just what's popular, but what affords a person who lays claim to it some cultural cachet. Put it like this: Succession is cool, Yellowstone is not. Right? And cigars are pretty firmly in the Yellowstone camp. Cigars aren't popular among the young, the rebellious, the countercultural. Cigars are associated with the establishment, and there are a few reasons for that. They are a favorite pastime of the elite, the aristocratic, the wealthy, the conservative, as well as those who aspire to be like them. But it's also because tobacco has never, in the United States, undergone any period of prohibition. Alcohol has, opiates are still subject to it, and marijuana is slowly making its way out. What prohibition does on a cultural level is give illegal goods the stamp of the outlaw. Partaking in something that carries the threat of jail time is a short pathway to being seen as cool. But even after it's no longer illegal, like alcohol, it still carries some of that swagger. Because the stories that get told about the prohibition period become part of our mythology in a way that can still be invoked. Tobacco's social standing has taken a hit, being linked to cancer will do that. But it's never been out and out criminalized. That said, cigarettes have some of the cultural cool associated with them. It's also cool to look at death and haunt it. But cigarettes, even with the heavy taxes, have an affordability that appeals to working class people, time consumption that makes participation more accessible. Cigars are more expensive and more time consuming. People have access to the resources needed to indulge. People who aren't cool. I don't mind not being cool. Never been cool. It's not something I'm missing out on. But the cigar community that's afraid of losing this thing they love as more tobacco regulation comes down the pike. It's having to ask itself, how do we make cigar smoking cool? And the answer is, you might not be able to. But the thing to try would be to appeal directly to the people with the ability to make things cool. How do you do that? Well, you can like, comment, and subscribe, and we can get into it together.